are so large and complex that traditional data processing applications are inadequate to deal with it. It is also a rapidly growing field that encompasses the predictive analytics to extract value from the large amount of data. Agile has also emerged as the preferred method of project management for the adaptable, incremental, and efficient delivery of work in the market today. The use of technologies that serve as the catalyst to enable these two principles to be combined in a successful business strategy is something that we will learn today. Our guest speaker has more than 2 decades of this experience as a strategic as well as hands-on professional experience in the information and communication technology industry. He is the founder of Method Science and is native Australian. He has authored 17 books ranging from agile technology to enterprise architecture to mobile enterprise, among many others. He's a fellow of the Australian Computer Society and is currently an associate professor at the USF Sarasota Manatee campus, where he leads the IT department in the ecology business. And earlier this month, he took part in the Qatar Agile Conference in Mexico City, where he was a featured speaker. Anyway, I would like to introduce Dr. Bhuvan and Helkar. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and good afternoon. About 2 minutes past 12. And it's my pleasure, my honor to be with all of you. I came to the STF meeting somewhere in October or November last year when one of my colleagues, Dr. Sunita Ladvi, brought me here. She has conveniently escaped to Chicago. But I'm glad there are a few of my friends, my colleagues over here. So can the USF guys just raise your hand? Okay, there you go. See, they are not here to listen to me. They are my quality assurance. They will make sure that I do speak sense. There are a few things I'm really proud of, having moved to Sarasota from Sydney, Australia last year. And my university right now, my campus, Sarasota Manatee campus, we are celebrating 40 years. And so we will proudly wear our 40-year pin, at least this year. And there are some very interesting things we are doing, and we want to do more of them with the industry. And therefore, a forum like STF is of immense importance to us and all of you who are sitting over here. Just before the summer, Professor Anurag Agarwal gave a talk here on text mining and related topic. And as Mark has correctly pointed out, this is the groundswell of movement of big data. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have been doing in this space. You will find my accent strange. I am trying to improve on it, but I look Indian because I have an Indian background. There is nothing to hide, but 30 years in Australia, and the Aussies are still trying to improve on my accent, including my 29-year-old daughter, who is a medical doctor. So she speaks Australian English when she deals with her patients, and she speaks Indian English when she talks to me. And my son Keshav. So the other pin that I'm wearing is a Paul Harris Fellow. That's a Rotary pin. And when my family visited in December, January, we went to the Sarasota Sunrise Club, and we had an induction there. And during the induction, a young man read out the entire profile of my wife and not me, because she is obviously more important. And that young man is the president of Rotary Sunrise, and he is sitting right here. Andy Lyon. And another person I would briefly like to mention is Colin. Where is Colin sitting? Colin Berish has been a big help to me in the authoring of a couple of books right now. I have brought some literature review, as all academics are supposed to do. So there are some interesting books here. You might want to have a look at them. I am not the author of these books, but Big Data Analytics Death of Money by James Ricard, where he talks about how he was able to correlate the stock market behavior 2 days before 9/11, which I thought was a fascinating study in big data analytics. There's another one which is really some very interesting stories on big data. This is very funny. And of course, my wife had to give this to me. That was about 3 years back. But this book can sit right between two other books. One is Open Heart Surgery for Dummies, and other is Landing 787 for Dummies. Now, I would want you to read all these books, but there is a book that I really don't care if you don't read, so long as you buy it. And that's my book on art of agile practice. Now, just in case Mark missed out on anything, here is my resume. But I can assure you I am right now not looking for a job because I am in a very nice job. Yeah, some of the books that I have worked on, including mobile, green IT environment, and so on. And back in Australia, I have been supervising PhDs, and there are a few other bits that I have been up to. So, we're talking about big data, and the question is, how is it different from data? And that might be a good starting point, I thought, for our discussion. So, any thoughts? And of course, big is not necessarily large, and the two are different. So, here are my thoughts. I just thought I'll put up a little, let me move, I'm just making sure that I'm speaking sense, right? You might want to just help me adjust this, yeah. So, this is my inbox, and this is my new car purchase, which you can figure out very easily. She's the lady who is helping me with the credit union, and there is the DocuSign. But do you see something interesting here? And of course, this is my one way of telling you all that I got a new car. But the Best Buy email came very, very close. 6:08 p.m. is when I have signed with credit union for the car loan, and 6:27 p.m. Best Buy is telling me, make your car even cooler. Okay? I have presented to you the first example of big data. It's not that it's not magic. There is nothing magic in this world. I have registered with Best Buy, but there is no correlation between Best Buy and University of South Florida Credit Union. They are not talking. So, Uncle Google has done the work for them, and at a price, whatever that price might be, offered my details to Best Buy. And Best Buy is now offering me something, and maybe I will make my car cooler by going to Best Buy and buying the boom box that my 20-year-old would like to listen and ruin his eardrums. So, correlation between otherwise unrelated data is one of the key characteristics of big data. So, for example, weather and offering a course in my university. How is the weather going? For example, traffic on US 41 and the state of economy of this region. These are unrelated pieces of data, but big data tries to bring them together. And technology has enabled that to happen, and therefore we are in the age of big data. Now, all of us have used emails, but also feedback on TripAdvisor, feedback on so many social forums, and I call them social mobile, both forms. When we type up an email, now if I have to talk about a relatively average experience, I will say not bad. And if Andy over here has an average experience, he will slam the crap out of the person. How dare you serve me like this? How dare you do this? How dare you do that? Both of us had the same experience, but our interpretation is different. So when I am writing an email, when I am describing something, I want, as a business, the technology to make sense out of it, which is another characteristic of big data. So if you have come across this little exercise, then please hold your breath for a few seconds. But rest of you should be able to make sense out of it, right? I mean, my 21-year-old son types exactly like this. It's all a code word now. You know, there should be a new Oxford dictionary for digital text. Makes any sense? No. Initially when I saw it, didn't make any sense. Meaning is not clear, even the characters are not clear, each word can mean different things. We can dump all of this in a database. And then if we go back to Anurag's text analytics presentation, it's really an email that we are trying to analyze. So another characteristic of big data is it will help us make sense. I'm talking to business here. Any thoughts? I know, Andy, you have worked it all out. So here is some more help, right? So if it is presented in this manner, which is how sometimes emails will come, and of course I'm trying to simplify it, trying to sort of generalize it, but then someone has to make sense out of it. And this is where intelligence, the human aspect, used to come into play and was almost mandatory. But now we are moving in a stage where the technology is able to help us. So trying to figure out meaning not just from one email, but from a million emails, from tens of thousands of clicks on our organization's website, all now able to provide some meaning. So I won't read out the nursery rhyme, but this is how one would model it in a relational structure. That's also a bit technical. In case you are interested, we can talk offline about it. Which then brings us to a almost formal definition of what is big data. So by the way, since we are not having lunch right now, if you feel like spreading out, please do so, because I don't want you to sprain your back twisting around listening to me. So feel free to move your chair back if you want to. So the classic definition, and it has come from IBM, is high volume, high velocity, and a lot of variety. And again, you know, we have listened to Tera and Beta and Exa and Zeta and or the terms that are telling us how to understand a very large quantity of data. But if you ask me, is there a cutoff? I don't think so. I cannot say that below this particular size, it's not big data. Because I already presented to you a couple of situations where the volume is not high, but the intricacies of what is happening in the background makes it big data. A 747 flight across Atlantic or Pacific generates a petabyte of data, and it just sounds 1 petabyte. But 1 petabyte is 1,000 terabytes, and 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. So it's 1,000 gigabytes. And I still have stored in my garage in Australia a floppy drive, which in 10 years' time I'll be able to sell for at least $10 to Andy. Now, we talked about the unstructured data, which most of the time is unstructured as in email or as in whatever messages you and I are sending and receiving from each other. But there is a greater variety of the unstructured aspect, and that includes audio, graphics, video, and machine generated data. I drove from my campus in USF campus to here. I have generated data because my GPS navigation has fed back to the base that Bhuvan is driving from near the airport to Electric Ranch. And that data has no meaning right now. But if that data is collected over 100 days, then Bhuvan's driving patterns can be analyzed, can be documented. Now, you must have come across cameras, and Sony was the first to do that from my memory, that you can put it on a setting that it will not click till you smile. Oh yes. So now we are talking about graphics, and then of course analyzing graphics, and the camera database has got maybe 100,000 smileys of different people in different ways, shape or form. It has been abstracted so that when Bhuvan smiles, only then it appears. We then have audio recordings and video, and right now with the events that are unfolding in New York, New Jersey that we are watching on TV, there has been a community-based effort to find the suspect and whatever was happening. So we are finding that we are in a stage where not just unstructured text, but audio, video, and machine generated and graphics data is playing a role. So to me, that whole thing is big data. Now, that has already happened. People have described it. You can see the books that I have shared with you. It's out there. Large organizations are working on it. But coming from my consulting background, all consultants are supposed to create models and sell them and promote themselves, right? So I have put in my fifth week and I have started publishing it. And I'm sure all of you will agree that that is the V for value. A data point on its own is meaningless. It's 100 degrees outside is meaningless unless we qualify it with what is the context. Are we talking about 100 Fahrenheit or Celsius? Because when I was traveling through the summer, as you know, Australia is in the southern hemisphere, so we all hang upside down, and when it is summer over here, it's winter over there, and we calculate temperatures in Celsius. So the question is, what value this data is going to provide to me, to my business? I am a bank, I am an airline, or I am a coffee vendor, coffee cart vendor, somewhere on one of the streets of Sarasota. Is there a value for me? Is there a value in finding out the number of cars that are passing by my coffee lot? Or is there a value in finding out how many people suffered a heart attack in the last 3 months? Is there a value? And if not, the whole exercise of big data is just fun, meaningless, and it's like a game. And my focus and my contribution to the big data world, I believe, is in how we can provide value to business. Not that people have not done this, they have thought about it, but I have worked to formalize it, and that's what I plan to share with you. So, we were chatting just before the start of this presentation that whenever the word big data is mentioned, there are two things that come to mind. One is fairly intense statistics and mathematics. Who was I chatting with about maths? Somewhere, okay, over the next colleague, I forget. Oh, was it Richard? You and I were chatting. So when the word big data is mentioned, suddenly it's all statistics and mathematics. And my dean, Jim Curran, is saying, Bhuvan, don't you mention the word statistics to your IT students. They'll run away. Now, if I go to my, if we look at the students who are studying statistics and who can become good data analysts, and if I mention the word Hadoop, they'll run away. So basically, my job is like to hold on to these students who should not run away. And Dean Curran, who is probably one of the best strategists, is right in telling me that use judicious words in dealing with these students. So when we talk about business, we don't want just analytics. And I will show you some of the analytical packages that are of value to us, but that's not the goal. Neither is Hadoop, and I will show you and may update you on these technologies as well, but that's still not the goal. So my read for value comes from strategy. And the book that I'm finishing right now, hopefully in the next 4 weeks, and submit to CRC Press, they will advertise it will be available in November. It won't be because it's right in my backpack. And it will take at least 3 to 4 months on big data strategy. Now, how many of you here are comfortable with the term Hadoop? Okay, so for the benefit of the rest of us, let's share it here. Duck cutting has revolutionized data, the way we store, the way it is analyzed. And he was first with Yahoo, then Google, and then on the And very, very simply, if you have a need to sort cookies in a jar, you are given a couple of hundred cookies, and I say, Mark, sort them out. Mark will take 2 hours to sort them by their colors and maybe by their size or whatever. But Mark, being a smart man, is going to make use of you and I and Andy, and he will say, right, let me divide these cookies into 4 parts. And he will sort one, and you, sir, will sort another group, myself and Andy will. So, do you think that will finish faster? Yes, it will finish faster. The challenge will be to roll up the totals. He's got 13 red and I have got 15 red and you've got 10 red and you have to add on them. That's what duck cutting has done at the back-end technology. So, when we talk about Hadoop, we are talking about a technology ecosystem which is based around what's known as commodity computing or heavily distributed computing. When we say commodity computing, it's really the desktop that you and I may be using or the laptop is all that is there. So instead of growing a search technology which is only scaling up in a singular entity, like I want to, Google is providing me with all the searches, and I search Suncoast Technology Forum, and it comes back within 0.0013 second, whatever it is, right? And it never seems to fail. Because instead of one large computer answering my query, I have got 100,000 small computers. And the example of sorting the cookies is a very popular example. I have distributed my work over 100,000 computers. And then if one of them fails, another one takes over. That's Hadoop. And his little kid was playing with a stuffed toy and calling that stuffed elephant Hadoop. So the whole technology has come to be known as Hadoop. So if you have kids or grandkids who are playing with soft toys, be careful. This is a more detailed description of what the ecosystem includes. But primarily Hadoop, which is Hadoop distributed file system, and then mappers and reducers, which are the algorithms we write on top of Hadoop. And then recently, in fact early this year, my department introduced a new course called NoSQL. And again, for non-technical friends here, NoSQL simply means not only structured query language. That means the Mary had a little lamb example that I gave you was unstructured, and if you were to dump that in a database, it will not fit into the nice rows and columns of Excel or Access, whatever you are using, right? It's going to be unstructured. It will be a long string. They're called binary large objects, blobs. So there is a overlap between object technology and NoSQL, and I'm hoping that our course will be a bit more popular, and we are trying to create students who will be of value to our local industry. So that's what these technologies are about. And you can go to the Apache site, and there are various technologies that are listed. It is an open source project, and you can have a Hadoop installation on your laptop. It doesn't have to be large, and that is the point I am stressing again. And you can experiment with the classic example. The exercise that we give to students is find out the number of A, N, and D in Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace. Now, if you are asked to do that without a computer, it will be a torture. It will take probably a year. If you are asked to do it with a computer, it is still a torture, unless you use the technology that we are talking about, which is unstructured data. And of course, we are familiar with some of them, but there are various categories of analytics, each of them providing a certain value to the business. So I'm not going to get right now, except this one. An example of fairly popular analytics. And if you have done any recent transaction in a bank, or that car example that I was giving, I have already received an email saying, please provide us with the feedback of your experience. And if you are going to select anything but 10 out of 10, please talk to me beforehand. That's what my card dealer is saying. How interesting is that? I mean, wasn't it a time when we said like 7 out of 10 is pretty good? I would consider if my son goes above 5 out of 10, I'll say well done. Positive reinforcement. Now it's getting recorded. I think he's going to take a flight, come here and ask a few questions. But on a serious note, this is a type of sentiment analytics which has become extremely popular, and which has been put together by, and there are references here that I have given you, I forgot the name, but Net Promoter Score, if all those who have selected 9 and 10, minus their percentage, minus those who have selected from 0 to 6. And that is an indication of what people out there are thinking about your business. And of course, you need a website, and you need your electronic aspect of your business. So what I have done so far is presented to you what is big data, and the two aspects, the analytical and the technical aspects of big data. But how does that differ from the strategic aspect? And I have just given a very simple example here, but the way for value is going to come when the business starts asking these kind of questions rather than those. And I am not saying they are not important, but they are in the technical and analytical space. And I'm trying to elevate big data to business value space. And that's where I have worked on in the past. So this book that I talked to you about is on agile business. In my opinion, agile is not a technology. It is a methodology at the best. It is a culture and a suite of techniques in my understanding. And in fact, in Mexico City, where I was delivering my keynote, the topic was the psychology of agile. So I was really talking no technology at all. So I am trying to say that excellence in decision making, and that can be a lot of parameters there, like I'm running my coffee cart. Today is Tuesday morning. How many cups of coffee should I plan to make? Am I going to get 120 plants or 350 clients. And there was a time, and perhaps there is still time, when in Publix you get a stack full of newspapers, right? New York Times is on one side, and various newspapers are there. How many physical newspapers should Publix in Lakewood area stock? Well, now that's a big data question. 3, 30 or 300? And I'm ready to go wrong by 10%, but I have been going wrong sometimes by 100%. In the sense that I bring 200 copies and I sell only 8. And those are the kind of questions we are talking about. And enabling a restaurant owner, right? I'm running my tandoor Indian curry. How many people are going to walk into my buffet this afternoon? Now that's a very big question. I and you can simply walk in there and take our food, but if you walk in there and the curry that I wanted to eat is not there, or the naan bread has become little soft, I'm not happy. And you look at the parameters that the owner come chef has to decide on, including the number of waiters, the number of plates to get ready. If I make too much, it will go waste. If I make too little, I lose my business. Right? So, agility, and I have defined it here, is the ability of the business to rapidly respond to external and internal changes. And if big data can help me do that, I want big data. If big data doesn't help me do that, there will be a situation I can come. Now I know that we are responsible for teaching courses, one on analytical side, one on Hadoop and NoSQL and R programming and Python and so on. But these young boys and girls, when they come out, we want to bring them into a business where they start looking at value rather than technology or analytics. And again, Dr. Fong sitting over there, criminology, right? A vast area for application of what we are talking about. But it has to be beyond analytics and technologies and into the business value space. So how to ascertain that business value? This is my framework, and I shouldn't even say mine, but I've been working on this for the last 2 years. And there have been some experiments. It's not yet validated in a formal research format, but it has been of value to the industry. So this is what Svetlana is saying, and I liked it. I picked up this quote yesterday night. Maybe it's not in the PowerPoint that I sent you because I was looking around for it. Learning Hadoop is easier than learning the business. And you and I, with the kind of experience we have in this room, we want people to focus on business. And of course, in the teaching world, it's a different story. So when I look at do you want me to stop for a few minutes or continue? And another 10, 15 minutes. Is that okay? You don't want this to be recorded, right?
It looks good. Makes me want to be a vegetarian.
Don't you look at mine. So this I have called Big Data Framework for Agile Business. Has been in the offing for last 1.5 to 2 years. And the key aspects. What are the business values? The key roles. And then this really forms the 5 major building blocks. And again, we can dilute them if it is a restaurant or a coffee cart, but if it is a like a criminology kind of application, hospital application, then this requires a fair bit of expansion. Inputs and outputs, parameters, type and size, agile practices, and then a big data manifesto. So when we drill down into this, we get, forgive me. Okay, I'm going to show it to you. This. So noodles, spaghetti, pasta, they look like this, isn't it? It's lunchtime, so please start eating while I finish my presentation. But the slide I showed you earlier expands into this. And my publisher, which was a very nice person, because my book is delayed by a year and he's still accepting me. He's trying to figure out, how do we put this in a book? How do we put it in a book like this? I mean, I have to print it on A1 or A0 or whatever is the large poster size, and it makes sense. But in a book, so we are thinking maybe we'll put it on the ring, on the inner inside cover, and then we'll have a downloadable, link. And of course, I'm making this available for free to everyone because I want this to be used. And while I was in Sydney during our summer, there are 2 PhDs that are starting in this area. So one is on hex elementization and putting it in big data framework, and the other one is still polishing his proposal. So I think from both research and application viewpoint, I'm hoping it has a lot of value. So let me just take you through some, this is what expands into that. The strategy cube is talking about opportunities, internal optimization of processes, risk management. And one of my friends right here who runs his company, Wristwatch, who has also been taking my interns like some of you have been taking very kindly, is quite interested in risk and compliance. And then of course, environment. And we can do a lot of work in the carbon area as well. Here are some more examples, case studies, a lot of cross-pollination of data. So weather, soil, crop features, market conditions, and so on. Similarly, in terms of health sector, 5 major benefits realized: faster time to treatment, reduced hospitalization, physician performance, risk stratification, especially due to wrong medications, self-administered and doctor-administered, and then improving medication management. Banking, and then of course fraud. These are all fraud-related analytics. And then I mentioned to you James Ricard and his book right over here. So here's the beautiful. This is really what that has come out. Use cases, and here I'm having layers upon layers of use cases. So these are the use cases that are feeding into a decision on credit rate. But then there are other additional use cases that feed into this use case, which is what big data allows me to do. I won't read out the manifesto for you, but it is there, and it has gone through a few verifications, but it can go through a bit more. Okay, now in terms of where we can apply in the Suncoast area, right? And that was one of Mark's requirement, that we should address some aspects of local that are relevant to local business. So there are, I've done a bit of searching around, but these 10 points make sense to me in addition to my big data framework on how a local business can go about applying big data. So don't dismiss, know when you need it, start simple, look for embedded analytics, consider the cloud, don't lose the market, don't lose the ground, buy, don't build, and there are so many tools available, and I will show some of them to you. Define the value, the vehicle value, look for big data leaders and know when to take it to the next level. So here are the tools, and there are many more, but these are tools that can be very easily used by a restaurant or a coffee shop, starting with Google Analytics. So of course you require a site, but 8 big data solutions for small business, and these are actual tools available, and they are not very costly. And then there is a trend report, and then there is also a McKinsey report, which again is freely available, very popular. I just did another research in our area, Tampa area, and salaries are not bad for starting big data skills. So I could have talked a lot more, but the sight of all of you having such wonderful meal is encouraging me to stop, which is a good strategy. But I would like to take a few questions as well if you are interested. But Mark and everyone here, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to share whatever I had to share. If there are a few comments or questions, I would love to have them. This is Paul Farabhan on my research. This is big data, volume and speed paradox in Great Lakes. This was a conference in 2014 in New York, Data Summit, and we had interviewed you there. And then we can look at it.
So, Doctor, where do you see the future of this new science, so to speak?
The one word simple answer would be a collaborative future. So gone are the days where a small company will say, look, I'm going to produce the best product for you, best software product or best mobile app. I mean, right now, as I was driving through, I was listening to an ad which says your miles that you put in on your car can be divided into business and personal automatically, and it is a IRS compliant application. Now to me that's a really an app that is going to use my GPS, my habits when I'm driving from home to my office. It's not tax deductible, but when I come from office to PoloGrill, I'm doing business related work, it is tax deductible. So my answer would be collaboration. It is impossible now for one individual or one company to provide an answer. So that is one view I have, that in the dynamics of the way we are developing solutions is changing, the way we are doing business is changing, and I see much better, much improved risk management because I am able to understand the risks associated with my business. I don't see how a place like this will run without big data analytics. They may not know it as big data analytics. They might simply know it as the computer is telling me that there are going to be 200 people for lunch here. What else? Sourcing strategies will change, supply chain is already changing, logistics is changing. When Anurag presented his talk here 4 months ago, he gave an example of FedEx, I think it was, where the path of the delivery truck is charted in such a way that the driver is most of the time making a right turn. You know the movie Back to the Future. I think we are in that stage where our kids may not need a driver's license because of the self-driving cars. So that's my long answer.
Very good, thank you.
What about access to data? So there's so much data out there, and there's all kinds of sources and resources to go to. Just what are some of your thoughts on the accessibility to the data, that rather than just saying I'm a restaurant and I have my internal data, how do we impact the data of the community and things?
Yeah, and the one word answer to that, which I didn't get to discuss enough, is cloud. And to give you a very simple example, in Australian summer, a couple of years back, we had a heavy wildfire, the bushfire. We call them bushfire. And in fact, San Francisco, LA, and Sydney, Melbourne are sister cities. So when it is winter over here, it's summer over there. Now, there was a massive fire in the Blue Mountains area, and some 100+ homes were lost. And when people ran out of the homes, because this fire advances at 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, that fast because of the wind. Those who were elders, those who were elder to me, when they were interviewed, you know, oh, we are sorry to have that you lost your home, you know, what did you take with you? And they had carried the old memories, you know, photographs of their parents and their kids and all those photographs. They valued that, and they valued cash and whatever jewelry, and if they ran out of that. What did the youngsters, people younger than me, ran out with? They couldn't care less about the photographs. Why? Because the photographs is with Uncle Truth, right? In the cloud. So you're talking about data and data access. Most businesses by default will move to the cloud. And once they have moved to the cloud, the interaction amongst those businesses is what I showed you with Best Buy. Because Best Buy on the cloud is able to figure out through their business arrangements that I am buying a new car. and able to offer me something that I may or may not want. So a big data analytics output for a restaurant like this or a hotel like this will not be based on their own data. Their own data will be simply setting parameters. Because they can make use of weather data, what's the temperature outside, they don't know. But it is relatively easy now to be able to predict at least a few days in advance. If there are any other big event happening, and now the elections are coming, and each day as we progress through the election is having an impact on the restaurants and on the sports arenas and so on. So that's one aspect of your question, and the other which I'm preempting is security and privacy of data. And most of the literature I am reading and most of the studies that I am doing tell me that in the big data world we are at the same stage that our grandparents or great-grandparents were with gold and cash. Because I remember my grandfather, who was a landlord somewhere deep inside central India, used to sleep with his gold and cash underneath his bed. That he would dig a hole and put it there and then cover it, and then he would put his bed on it. And I wouldn't dream doing that, because I'm putting whatever cash I have in a bank. Now to me, a bank is a cloud. Maybe right now I know that this is Wells Fargo or credit union, I know it. But if you go 3 years above, have you seen the movie The Big Short? It's a worth seeing movie, The Big Short. The primary, the mortgage crisis, 2007 crash. Someone was able to figure that out. So that to me is cloud, isn't it? I'm putting my money somewhere. I don't see it, but I know it's there. Can I not do that for data? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about strategies for bringing big data skill sets into a company?
Yes, which is my big data framework,
Okay.
and I've got these 5 building blocks as part of my adoption strategy. And the first one is important because that is where I might decide I don't want big data. There are a couple of interesting results that can come out of the first block. One is I don't need big data. It may just be an overkill. Another is it may be of more value to a company that is already successful rather than a company that's failing. And that was a very interesting insight that big data is taking analytics and decision making to a level where it will be of value to a company that's already doing well. And that's just I'm not talking about research data, I'm just saying insights based on whatever we have tried to do. The third thing is not to start with technology, because most of the places that have gone to physically, couple of banks and a travel agency that are dabbling, I would say, with big data, but especially in a bank, they got a section where they are just experimenting and having fun with Hadoop, and that's not the way I would start big data. I would go to my strategy cube and I would see, explore where are the opportunities where I can actually show value to my staff, to my employees, and to my customers. And then I would go back and start using my analytics. And some of the tools like Tableau, even Excel has been used to do certain analytics that could be classified as big data analytics. So the framework that I showed, which I'm happy to share offline, by the way, the presentation is available to be shared with everyone. All it needs is acknowledgement if you are using it elsewhere. Some of the tools that I have listed here in my presentation and the framework that I have put together will be your best risk reduction strategy for introducing big data. There is also a 12-lane process. There is a full 12-lane process, and you might select 4 out of those 12. Right. And if you have a question.
I think you answered about privacy. You deal with questions like, do we have a right to our data privacy? At what point do we have a right to data privacy? Where does that line end, start and end to begin with our data privacy?
Well, I would ask that question very gingerly, very tenderly. Because wasn't it only about 150 years ago that when the first steam engine in England somewhere started rolling, there was a man with a white flag walking in front of the engine to make sure that the speed of the engine doesn't go. This is a steam engine, locomotive. The speed of the engine should not be so high as to pollute the atmosphere. This was 150 years ago in the history of humanity, how many thousand years you want to go back. So, when I am needing something, I have to go out and transcend my fears about privacy and security. For example, I go to a doctor's office and I can't just say, doctor, treat me. If I have to get proper treatment, I need to tell the doctor, this is what is hurting and that's what is in pain. And if the doctor says, remove your shirt, I remove my shirt. There goes your privacy and security. So, depending on the value you are looking for in a big data solution, you may have to expose the data that you are providing. And I'm not belittling the question. I'm just saying that the context might change so much. Like my resume. I've got 10 versions of my resume. One is on LinkedIn, one is on my website, one is on Rotary site. Each of them are showing different things. And as time goes by, the astute reader of my resume will contact me and say, "You have your latest." Instead of worrying, oh my God, I have not yet updated the fact that I have joined. No, I haven't yet updated in my Sydney profile that I am here. Because there I could be consulted. Any other thoughts?
But they do know that you're here. Right?
They know, they know exactly I am in PoloGrill.
Big data knows.
And that too at 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. Yes.
Yes, Doctor, I have a question. I'm thinking in terms of small business because I know, like my family, my husband and I, we really like going to individually owned businesses and restaurants.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of a bookstore up in Waynesville, North Carolina, called Blue Ridge Books. Okay. So, they're competing with Amazon. We have Amazon Prime. We order books there, but we still like to go to these locally owned bookstores. So we've been going there for years, and a few years ago we bring friends in, and everybody loves it. They years ago had coffee, so they made latte and they had pastries. A couple of years ago they stopped the coffee. Okay, no more lattes. And within this little town of Waynesville, besides Starbucks, there really isn't a good coffee place. So we keep telling them we should bring that back, it adds to the experience. But they're like, no, our accountant said that we were losing money on it, okay? How do you help? That's just an example. I really liked your car example at the beginning because we can all relate to stories. How would you help a small business with